for a medical, and you had to go for a test to see your ability.
Well, you worked for an accountant, you worked in the food office, you were pretty well sorted in terms of having a bit of a brain about you, weren't you, really?
Well, probably.
Yeah. Well, they obviously thought so.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I did do this test and got it. Got through and got there.
So you joined the railways?
Yep.
When Wisbech had two stations?
2 railways.
2 way stations?
Yep.
Goods yards? Loads of people coming in and out, lots of stuff going on.
I had the east and the north, which the middle was called the north.
And you were at the east?
The north.
You were at the north?
No, I used to cross the east every day to go to work and worked in the north.
Long days?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Especially when you was on nights, because you had to be there until about 10.
Well, the last train was that?
10 something in the night.
Yeah.
And that had to...
where did that go to from Wisbech? Where
the one used to go to Peterborough, and the other one used to go... Did we... I can't quite remember. It went to Sutton Bridge and that way. Well, would it have gone to Lynn?
Some of them went to Lynn, genius, and others went because there was a there was a branch. So some went to Lynn, and others went up to Boston way.
We used to call them the up train and the down train. The up train was the Peterborough, that used to go to Peterborough.
All steam, of course.
Oh yes. Yeah, but nothing was diesel then, were they?
So, and busy?
Oh yes, yeah.
Well, people commuting to work or travelling to
people
work?
People commuting to work.
Because they used to carry a lot of goods on those trains.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The Wisbech North goods yard, I mean on the strawberry season, it was horrendous. The people from all the villages used to come, and the farmers used to come and load up. That's rain with my paper. They used to load up at the North Station.
So they used to bring all the fruit onto the station,
yes,
and then they'd load them onto the trains.
Yes.
And then they'd take them to wherever they were going.
That'd be in the goods yard.
Yeah.
The goods yard was...
So if they didn't catch that train and get them away, they'd be they needed to get them away.
Yeah, a lot of them used to go to I remember Covent Market and somewhere in Manchester, and they had to go away that day, else they wouldn't be any good. I mean, they were still in chips.
Yeah. So you had a lot of goods traffic coming through. You had a lot of passengers coming through.
On the good side,
on the good side and everything else. So it stayed busy while all the time you were there. Now you used to have to link up. Did you link up with Kings then much then? So did you ever get any royalty through or anybody interested through?
I remember the Royal train coming through once, and I can't think why. They used to go to. They went to Wolferton, didn't they?
Yes, that's where it used to end up at.
Yeah, and I remember the Royal train coming through, and we had instructions that we weren't to be seen. We couldn't go out on the platform.
Really? You were told to stay away?
Yeah, we mustn't go.
Did they scrub it all up ready for the train coming through? Was the station cleaned up ready for it?
The stations was always kept clean.
Yeah.
Used to have the flower boxes.
And did it have a different station manager for north and east? Or
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you had a station master.
Yes.
Just looking after your station. I don't suppose you'd remember how many people would have worked at the station in those days.
Well, there was the station master. There was the chief clerk. There was another male clerk. There was me and another lady.
And so, were you a team, or was there like a hierarchy, and they didn't?
Oh no, you had your chief clerk.
Yeah.
Mind you, he was a marvellous chief clerk. He really was. I went to work on the railway, and I suppose I don't know. But I went to work there, and he took me under his wing.
Yeah.
And do you know, he taught me more than I think I'd learnt at school. He hadn't got a daughter, and he said to me, Jean, he said, you're the daughter I've always wanted. And he'd got a son, and he was professor of botany and genetics at Durham University, but he hadn't got a daughter. And he stood me in front of the, because we all had open fires, great big open fires, and he stood me in front of the, well, I thought it'd be dangerous now. There used to be a great big map on the wall with every place in Britain, town, and how you got there. And he said, "Now stand in front of that when you've got a spare minute and remember it."
Because that, when any customer came to the booking office,
You had to know where they were going and where.
It's like a London taxi driver. They call that the knowledge. So this was the similar sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting when you go to book a ticket. You expect some. Even now, I mean, I was in London last week, and there were people in front of me, and they were arguing or having a debate with the clerk, and they were getting frustrated because the clerk didn't know all that he.
Oh, you told them where.
But this was at King's Cross, and you.
Railway.
And saved up to go on the railway as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it was never that cheap, was it? Could you afford to use them?
Well, we were fortunate there because we used to get the free tickets.
Yeah.
So if you worked on the railway, you got free tickets. Only so many a year though. You didn't sort of. And I remember this chief clerk saying to me, I mean, I couldn't afford to go anywhere. And he said to me, "You don't use your tickets." And he said, it didn't matter where you went in England, you could, Great Britain, you could go. And he said, "Jean, if you only get on the train and go. But I couldn't. I suppose, being young, you didn't feel as if you could." He said, "You could go to Inverness or anywhere."
But you never did?
Never did. Weren't I silly?
Yeah, you had all those free. Well, it was your choice, but it
wasn't
an
a
interest.
Choice. It was a. I don't suppose I felt comfortable or sort of young. I was too young, I suppose.
Well, you thought to be safe or just to feel comfortable?
No, I never did feel unsafe. I was never a frightened person.
But it was.
I mean, you just think in the wartime when there was no lights on, the cars were coming in, and no lamps on. I was at school when war ended.
War ended, and then you went off after you did the accountancy job, and then you got sacked from that, and then the food office.
Do you mind? That's a secret.
And
my granddaughter never knew that.
And they relieved you of your job to go and work on the railway. But I mean, a lot of people with the railways, and you didn't work there actually that many years, but a lot of people, when they've associated with the railways, are quite nostalgic for it.
They were a breed of their own, railwaymen, and they were a breed of their own, railwaymen. Well, I mean, once they got on the railway, they got a job for life, hadn't they? Or they thought they had.
Yeah. Whereas a lot of people in the 50s thought that jobs were going to be like today. That sort of thinking doesn't work out. So, so those years then you spent on the railways. I mean, the railway was busy. There were two of them in the town. People were still. So when you left the railway in 52, 53.
I don't think they ever paid because it was British Railways then, wasn't it?
Well, that was always the problem, wasn't it? That they didn't know how to make them pay.
No, I don't think they ever paid.
Well, there were 6 porters.
Yeah, there were 6 porters. Mind you, they had to go early in the morning, and the shift, and then the others had to come on a bit later and work till that 10 o'clock train. I mean, they'd have the mail train, I suppose, in the morning, and also the papers used. I know that 10 o'clock one. The Wisbech because it was Wisbech Advertiser then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They used to come and load
Yeah, because
paper.
all the paper trains and
Yeah.
we used papers. And it came by train. The post came. Everything came by train, didn't
Well,
it?
even I remember the hospital used to bring up the little parcels, and that was the blood. What people had donated the blood to go
Animals
to people.
used to have on the train as well, didn't
Oh yes, yeah, cows.
they? Yeah.
The cattle market, I was saying the cattle market in Wisbech, I think it was a Monday, and the cows used to come past there and be loaded up.
On the trucks.
Yeah.
So, what would you would be you'd be quite happy to see the railway come back to Wisbech?
Would I? Yes, because I would. We shouldn't have got rid of it in the first place.
Did
They could have left, as I said, this chief
Clark,
clerk.
yeah, you seem to place a lot of store by.
I did. He
Got
was
by
a
him.
he was a lovely. He was a justice of peace, and he was a lovely man. I couldn't have wished for it to go to work under anybody better than him, and I suppose he sort of took to me, and his wife took to me. But he was a lovely man. He sat. I remember him sitting in front of a great big ledger. But, I mean, I could hardly reach across it. I was only little, you know. And he sat me in front of this great big ledger, and it figures all the way up there. And he said, "Now, Jean," he said, "sit there." He said, "And add those figures up, and just remember it was pounds, shillings, and pence in those days. It weren't like we have now." And he said, "Add all those up." He said, "And make them come to the figure at the end." And that was balancing the books, wasn't it? And he said, "I don't care how long you take doing it." He said, "You can, how long you take." He said, "But get that right." He said, "And you can take all the time in the world." And do you know, that teaches you. Yeah. It was one Saturday morning, and I was on early shift. The chief clerk used to do it, and then when I come along, he said, "Well, I'd like you to take over from me." He used to do one week you went on earlies, and the trains used to come. The first train was 7:23, but don't quote me. But something like that. I know I got there. I sort of had to scrap to get there, yeah. At 7:23, and you'd leave off a bit earlier that day. The lates used to go on a bit later, and you'd leave off at that 10 o'clock. One used to, one of the gentlemen in the office used to do swap, you see. And I was on it one early Saturday morning, it was, I always remember. And it came over the signal boxes that the king had died. And how it come is, the signal boxes used to, you know, like Morse code,
Yeah.
the signal boxes used to tack, 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 tack. You could see them doing it. And they could, as I said, they could sit one side of the signal box and tell you exactly what that says, but just this, it was like a needle going over. And they came over the signal boxes like that. And I think I went home to my mum. Nobody else knew in Wisbech. It was just the signal boxes had done it, and they used to. That's how they used to talk to each other.
And that's how you knew?
That's how they knew. And I went home to my mother and I said, "The king has died." She said, "Oh, don't say that." She said, "How do you know things like that?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It came out of the signal boxes." And nobody knew. It was just, I suppose, it'd come from Wolferton, wasn't it? And Sandringham.
It had started that way and then just...
Because he died in Sandringham, didn't he? Yes. He was at Sandringham House when he died.
George VI, yeah.
George VI.
Yeah.
What an interesting story. So that you became one of the first people in Wisbech?
Well, I won't say I was the first. The signalman was the first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But he would
and-
have still been on duty, of course, wouldn't he, Jean?
Sorry?
He would have still been on duty when you left.
Didn't you?
Oh yes, because
So
they
you
used
see,
to take
not
over
think
from me.
that Wisbech had such a railway tradition, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
You
No.
know,